Hello students of class 11C. So we are here with a new chapter, collection of data, chapter 2 of statistics for economics, and uh, I have sent you the NCERT book also. You can see it from there. We'll be reading from here NCERT book, and we'll be studying the chapter. So in the previous chapter that was introduction. In that chapter we have studied that how statistics is so helpful in solving economic problems, and how the economists use the statistical tools to solve economic problems, and the government can make policies to mitigate those problems. So this all we have studied about. We have also studied about the benefits of statistics in finding out relationships, to summarize the data, all these things. In this chapter what we are going to do is that as we have studied in our previous chapter about the statistics in singular sense. In singular sense, statistics means first of all, to mitigate any economic problem, we have to collect the data. So to collect the data, there are some different procedures. So in this chapter we are going to study about this only. What are the sources of data and how can we collect the data by different modes or different ways, right? So we are going to study in this chapter. So in the beginning, let's see here. I'm on page number, this is page number 9, and I'm going to read from right side. Okay. The purpose of collection of data is to show evidence for reaching a sound and clear solution to a problem. So what is the purpose of collecting data? To get a very clear or perfect result, so as to solve any problem. That is the economic problem. In economics, often you come across statements like this. So in economics, we are going to find out some of the statements like, after many fluctuations, the output of food grains rose to 132 million tons in 1978 to 79, from 108 million tons in 1970 to 71. So here what we are seeing is that the production of wheat, or we can say any food grain, the data is giving us the report that in 1978 to 79 the production was 132 million tons, and in 1979 this production has fallen to again, this is 108 million tons. Okay. So if you will see here that in the previous years the production was 132 million tons, but afterwards it fell down. So this is what is called as the fluctuation. But this record we are getting after conducting some survey. In survey only we collect the data and find out that what was the production of wheat in 1979, in 1970, so like this. And afterwards the food grain production had started growing or rose continuously to 252 million tons in 2015 to 16. So this is how you can see that in the beginning the production of food grain has fallen down. After that it again the production has rose to 252 million tons, like this. So all this data that we are getting here, we have collected it, okay, and then it is put into the records. In this statement, you can observe that the food grains production in different years does not remain the same. So this is the data which we are seeing here in the example. We see here that the production of food grain is not constant. It is not same in different years. It is continuously changing, and that is why we call it as a variable. The production of food grain is variable. Okay. So the production of food grain is a variable. Years are changing, that is also a variable. So anything which is changing is a variable. And in statistics we used to take like this only, that if there are two different concepts which are going to change continuously, those are variables, those are called as variables. And in this example we are having two variables. One variable can be called as x variable, that is the number of years which is changing, and another variable is the production of food grains, which is also fluctuating. Sometime it is falling down, otherwise it is falling. Apart from falling, it is rising. So this is also a variable concept, that is the production of food grains, and we can call this second variable as y, right? So number of years, x variable, production of food grains, y variable, like this. And one table is given to you on page number 10. It is showing the production of food grains from 1970 to 2016 to 17. So this is a particular type of tabular form of statistical data, okay, which is giving us the record that what was the production of food grain in different years. You may be knowing this about that whenever we are having this statistical data, that is from 1970 to 2016 and 70, if we are continuously recording the production of food grains, then we come to know, or we can predict in the coming years, that what could be the production of food grains in the coming years. So economic planners can predict with the help of this statistical data. Now the question is this, what are the different sources of data? Okay, what are the different sources of data? So actually, whenever we are going to collect the data, then there are different two sources through which we can take the data from. The first form or source of data is primary data. The another source of data is secondary data. So what is this primary data? This primary data is that type of data in which the researcher may collect the data by conducting an inquiry. So in this primary data, the investigator himself is going and conducting a survey and collecting the data, or continuing with his inquiry. Suppose, so this type of data is called as first-hand data, right? When the investigator by himself is going and inquiring and recording the data, recording the responses of the people from the public. And for this, suppose you want to know about the popularity of a film star among school students. So for example, here it is written for primary data example, that if you want to collect the data of a film star from your school student, that who is more famous. So for this, you have to reach to every student, every class, every section, and then you will ask questions from these students, and after asking questions, you will come to know, after collecting the data, that which is the most famous film star among all the students in the school. So this is how this is the we can say help, or this is the source through which we can come to know to a particular perfect information, okay, after inquiring. So this is the method in which the investigator himself used to go and inquire. So this type of data is called as first-hand data, and this is what is called as primary data. On the other hand, if the data have been collected, we can also collect data from any other source. First source was first-hand data. Secondly, we can also collect the data from any published data or published type of source of data, which is already scrutinized and tabulated. This type of information, this type of data we can get from any newspaper, magazine, like this. Already it is published. Already the first-hand data was conducted and then processed, in which processing, what happens is that the data is collected together, scrutinized, that everything is right in that, something is not mismanaged, everything is done in that, everything is managed well, and then after that tabulated, it is put it into a table form and presented into some type of magazine or journals like this. So they can be obtained. So this type of data, which is to be collected from any other agency, is called as secondary data, and they are obtained either by published sources such as government reports, documents, newspapers, books. All these are the different agencies which are publishing this data, and when we collect from these agencies, then we are collecting the second hand data, or we can say secondary data. So these are the two sources of data that we are having here, and let's see that how do we collect the data. What is the method in which we can collect the data? So let's see here. Do you know that how a manufacturer decides about a product, or how a political party decides about a candidate? Then if we talk about any manufacturer, then we have to see that how this manufacturer is deciding that which product he wants to produce. He has to make decision. On the other hand, any political party who is that is going to select a candidate from the common people, how are they going to collect this? How they are going to select this candidate? You know, there is one method to collect or to select this candidate. There is one method to for a manufacturer to produce any particular good, and that is survey. In survey, what is done is that first of all, an investigator is sent to the respondents to ask some questions. From these questions only, we come to know that which product is much famous among the people, and the manufacturer comes to know that this is the particular product which is very, very much in high demand by the public, and he will start producing it. On the other hand, the political party also conduct a survey. They also send their investigators among the people, and these investigators used to ask questions from the public. After collecting information, they come to know that which is the right candidate, who is loyal, who is more honest among the people, who is more famous among the people, from where the more votes can be collected. A person who is going to get more votes from the people, that candidate is going to be selected by the particular political party. So in this way, by conducting a survey, we can do what? We can reach to a very perfect result. So as I told you that in survey, some questions are asked. So don't think that any question can be asked. Actually, questions are also prepared keeping some points in mind. Okay, so what is this? This is a preparation of questionnaire. Questionnaire is also pre-planned. Okay, so let's see how this questionnaire is prepared. So we call it as a preparation of instrument. This is an instrument to collect information from the public and to reach to a particular result, perfect result. So how these questions are framed, let's find out. So there are certain things that should be kept in mind while preparing a questionnaire. Whenever we are framing questions, we should keep some important things in our mind. So what are those important things? Number one, the questionnaire should not be too long. The questionnaire should not be too long, which can make the particular respondent more confused. Not confused, you can say tiring. The respondent will be tired to answer so many questions. So the questionnaire should not be too long. It should be limited, not very long, because time is also another factor which should be covered. Within limited time period, we want to collect the information. Secondly, the questionnaire should be easy to understand and avoid ambiguous or difficult words. So the questionnaire also should be easy to understand, and it should not contain any difficult words, or it should not be ambiguous. Where ambiguous means that only one-sided thinking or personal feelings should not come in that, right? The questionnaire should be in such a manner prepared that the respondent, whatever answer we are getting from the respondent should get the correct answer within limited time period. Then in the third point, to prepare a questionnaire, it should be kept in mind that the question should be arranged in an order. There should be some order of the questions. Which questions should be at the first place, and then which question should be in the middle, and then at last. So this order also should be maintained. In this way, whenever questions are asked, then the respondent is a person who is giving answers. Respondent also is feeling comfortable. Then fourth point that should be kept in mind to prepare a questionnaire is the questions should move from general questions to specific questions. So there are two questions here, one poor question and good question also. Poor question is that in which specific to general the question is moving. Like for example, it is written, this is a poor question. Is increase in electricity charges justified? Second question, is the electricity supply in your locality regular? So you will be seeing here that a specific question was asked first and general question was asked afterwards. Because if a person is doing some work, his brain is concentrated to do that particular work, and if you directly go and ask him what about the charges of electricity, is it justified, is it all right, or these charges which are increased by the government is very high prices. So a person is going to be not giving very perfect answer because a person is engaged in some other work. To bring him back to that particular point, we must ask some general questions first of all. तो general questions में first of all क्या होता है? Is electricity supply in your locality regular? So now the brain of the respondent will move towards this electricity only, and then he will be giving the correct answer. So always the questions should move from general to specific. So first it should be asked, is the electricity supply in your locality regular? Then you should ask that is increase in electricity charges justified? Then another point which should be kept in mind to prepare a questionnaire, what we do is the question should be precise and clear. The question should be clear and very precise, not very too long. Okay, it should not be too long. It should be precise. And for example, there are two questions given here, one poor, one good question. How to find out that which one is the precise and clear question? What percentage of your income do you spend on clothing in order to look presentable? If you are asking to a respondent a question that how much of your income you spend on clothes in a month to look presentable, जैसे ही presentable word add करते हैं, then what happens is the question is not clear. Maybe the respondent is going to answer about that expenditure on cloth or clothes that he purchased, only those clothes which he has purchased for any marriage party or any special occasions he used to wear. You will find out that this much amount of expenditure I do to look presentable only. You are not going to get the correct answer. If the correct or clear answer you want to get, then good questionnaire is what percentage of your income do you spend on clothing? Directly speaking like this. So directly the respondent will answer you maybe 30% of my income or 40% of my income I spend on clothing. Correct answer you will get. Then another point that should be kept in mind. The another point that should be kept in mind is, do you spend the question should not be ambiguous. They should enable the respondents to answer quickly, correctly and clearly. The questions should not be ambiguous. Ambiguous questions are those which are actually having personal feelings, one-sided thinking. Okay? These type of questions are ambiguous. The ambiguous questions should not be asked. if we want the answer to be clear, quick, and correct, then we must ask some questions which are not ambiguous. Like, one poor question is, do you spend a lot of money on books in a month? Do you spend a lot of money on books in a month? Ambiguous. Good question. How much do you spend on books? This is the right answer question. In a month. And you are going to give the options also. Options are less than 200 rupees, between 200 to 300 rupees, between 300 to 400 rupees, or more than rupees 400. So these options are also given. And in this way you can find out that how much do you spend on books in a month. So question is not ambiguous. Now after this, what should be kept in mind? Another thing that should be kept in mind to prepare a questionnaire is, the question should not be double negatives. There should be no double negatives in the question. Question में कभी double negatives नहीं होनी चाहिए. Like for example, wouldn't you, didn't you. In this way, if the question is asked with double negatives, the respondent is confused. Like for example, don't you think, poor question, double negative it is using. Don't you think smoking should be prohibited? Double negative is there. Respondent will be confused and he will not be giving the correct or clear answer. On the other hand, good question is, do you think smoking should be prohibited? Yes. Answer is yes, correct. You will get the clear, quick answer. This is the question which is not carrying any double negatives. Then, another thing that should be kept in mind to prepare a questionnaire, the question should not be a leading question. Question should not be a leading question which gives a clue about how the respondent should answer. Leading question वही होते हैं जिसमें clue होता है that what the respondent should answer. Like for example, poor question, how do you like the flavor of this high quality tea? एक question आपने पूछा एक respondent से, इस high quality tea का taste आपको कैसा लगा? ये पहले ही आपने बोल दिया हाई क्वालिटी टी है, तो क्या होगा? आंसर विल बी यस, इट इज वेरी टेस्टी. इफ यू वुड हैव नॉट यूज दिस हाई क्वालिटी टी, तो आपको शायद करेक्ट आंसर मिलता. ठीक है. सो गुड क्वेश्चन इज, हाउ डू यू लाइक द फ्लेवर ऑफ दिस टी? बस डोंट यूज एनी टाइप ऑफ लीडिंग वर्ड्स, गुड क्वालिटी टी और लाइक दिस. देन द क्वेश्चन शुड नॉट इंडिकेट ऑल्टरनेटिव्स टू द आंसर. क्वेश्चन में कभी भी ऑल्टरनेटिव्स नहीं दिए जाने चाहिए. लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल, पुअर क्वेश्चन, वुडंट यू लाइक टू डू अ जॉब आफ्टर कॉलेज और बी अ हाउसवाइफ? यहाँ पे आपके ऑल्टरनेटिव्स दिए हुए हैं. क्या आप कॉलेज की पढ़ाई को कंटिन्यू करोगे, या तो फिर यू आर गोइंग टू बी अ हाउसवाइफ. सॉरी, आफ्टर कॉलेज आर यू गोइंग टू डू अ जॉब और आर यू गोइंग टू बी अ हाउसवाइफ? आपने यहाँ पे ऑल्टरनेटिव्स दे दिए. यहाँ पे आंसर आपका क्लियर बिल्कुल करेक्ट नहीं आएगा. सो द क्वेश्चन, गुड क्वेश्चन शुड बी लाइक, व्हाट वुड यू लाइक टू डू आफ्टर कॉलेज? बस correct answer you will get. So you can see here that to prepare a questionnaire, we must keep in mind all these points. There are about 9 points that should be kept in mind. And to prepare a questionnaire, we are having two type of questions here: closed-ended questions and open-ended questions. Okay, so you can see here that closed-ended and open-ended questions. What are these two type of questions? Closed-ended questions are those type of questions which carry maybe the answer to these closed-ended questions could be yes or no. Or secondly, closed-ended questions are those questions which are multiple choice questions, where the respondent is getting limit to answer the question. एक लिमिट दे दी जाती है, ऑप्शन दे दिया जाता है, उसके ज्यादा आप आंसर नहीं दें. तो ये होते हैं closed-ended questions in which the आंसर कुड नॉट बी एक्सपैंडेड बाय द रिस्पॉन्डेंट. ठीक है, तो या तो फिर यस नो में आंसर देना होगा उसको, या तो फिर उसको बोलते हैं टू वे क्वेश्चन, यस या नो में आंसर देने वाला. एंड मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चंस इन विच द रिस्पॉन्डेंट इज गोइंग टू बी गिविंग द ओनली लिमिटेड आंसर अकॉर्डिंग टू द ऑप्शंस गिवन बाय द इन्वेस्टिगेटर इन द क्वेश्चन. सो हियर यू कैन सी वन क्वेश्चन, व्हाई डिड यू सेल योर लैंड? आपने अपने लैंड को क्यों सेल कर दिया? 4 ऑप्शंस आर गिवन: टू पे ऑफ द डेब्ट्स, टू फाइनेंस चिल्ड्रंस एजुकेशन, to invest in another property, और फोर्थ ऑप्शन इज एनी अदर स्पेसिफाई. बस अगर ये लिखा हुआ है, ये 4 ऑप्शंस देने हैं, तो आपको रिस्पॉन्डेंट जो है वो इन्हीं में से कोई लिमिटेड आंसर दे पाएगा. चाहे तो वो फर्स्ट ऑप्शन, सेकंड ऑप्शन, थर्ड ऑप्शन या फोर्थ ऑप्शन को सिलेक्ट कर सकता. बस याद रखेंगे, क्लोज्ड एंडेड क्वेश्चन जो मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चंस हैं, इन दोस मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चंस one option should always be given, that is if any other specify. Then there are also open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are those in which the respondent can expand the answer, and the respondents will be also giving different answers because they are expanding the answer by themselves. Like for example, what is your view about globalization? अगर आप respondent से पूछने वाले हैं what is your view about globalization, then what will happen? The respondent is going to give a very detailed answer, right? So these are the two type of different ways in which the questions can be prepared, maybe open-ended or closed-ended.